Missouri closes out its regular season by getting a 31-17 win over Arkansas. Joey Van Zumeren here for Missouri Tigers on SI to recap this win for Missouri as they cap off the regular season. And really, I think the most interesting thing that we were able to hear today was Eli Drinkwitz after this game talking about his extension, the timeline on that, and really be able to kind of directly address all of those rumors that have been swirling around for the last month. So, going to get to that in a little bit. I think with this game, obviously, there's not much point to discussing, what we learned about this team in week 14 of the season. Really, what we learned is, again, just showing another piece of evidence that this team is what it is. The passing offense, is going to be inefficient, can't move the ball all that well. There's going to be a few errant passes in there. There were some drop issues today, especially with the wet conditions. The run game is going to be awesome if they're able to get some push off the offensive line. Obviously, some great runs from Ahmad Hardy, Jamal Roberts, but Pabula did a good job running the ball as well. The defense is going to be great. They're going to let up a few explosive plays in the passing game, especially early on. KJ Jackson, the redshirt freshman, him and Taylon Green were swapping off at quarterback by quarter, basically. Jackson really able to get some not deep passes per se, but kind of on that second level of the defense there. And then special teams is going to have some really costly issues. So again, this team is this team. You really can't say that any of those moments in those bigger games were flukes, quite frankly. This is a team where you're not surprised that it's an 8-4 team, even despite the fact that its schedule ended up being tougher than probably a lot of people expected, just with how some teams perform and the fact that they ended up playing 4 top 10 teams. I think the main thing I was going away from this game thinking is Ahmad Hardy. I mean, there's nothing new we learned about him in this game. He's going to be dominant, but just forward looking into the offseason, I mean, from here on out, we have no clue what next year's Missouri team is going to look like, and I mean, that's just the focus for the next months or so. Transfer portal doesn't open until January 2nd, but I'm sure we'll hear some stuff trickling very, very soon here. And my main thought coming out of this game is just like, man, you got to retain Ahmad Hardy, and then you can focus on everything else. Not that there's any info out there as far as Ahmad not staying. In fact, he had a pretty telling comment, I thought, after the game when he was asked about Coach Drinkwitz's extension. He said, all I know is that he's staying, so that's good for me, so you can make what you want to out of that. But if you have Ahmad Hardy, it's more so just, it's not as much the fact of focusing on retaining him. Obviously, you have to do that, but it's more so the focus on, like, you can really build around this guy, and it can be really exciting. Obviously, it'd be nice, and I think one of the main areas they got to focus on this season, or this offseason, it has to be investing in that offensive line more than they did last offseason. You probably have Caden Green probably declaring for the NFL draft as a junior, so you have to replace him, and overall just have to be a lot better on that group, and that helps the passing game as well, and the passing game is a whole other thing. But again, you can build around Ahmad Hardy. I feel like there's a lot of games. I mean, look, we talked about, how many games has the kicking unit for Missouri costed them? A lot of times where Ahmad Hardy has saved this team. So impressive performance, impressive season from Ahmad Hardy. Again, the special teams, I'm constantly impressed by the new ways they find to mess things up. So that's that. We'll see, what comes of that unit. And then in the second part of this, just want to talk quickly about what Eli Drinkwitz said, again, about his extension. Addressed, like I said, in the months leading up to this, he's talked 2 times in press conferences about job rumors, but obviously not able to address anything too directly. And of course, really, whenever, with this speculation, it was going to continue until he signed an extension, right? Like, there was no possible end to it until he ended up doing that on Thanksgiving. So Drinkwitz said that after that game against Oklahoma, he had texted Larry Veach, the director of athletics, and said, let's get this done. Wanted to get it done, obviously, pretty soon to be able to kind of settle that down, basically. And Drinkwitz said that a main part of it was what some Oklahoma fans had said to Missouri's players as they were waiting in the tunnel. Not necessarily a main part of it, but a main part of what had inspired Drinkwitz to really just put a nail in the coffin on this conversation. So if you didn't see the video, there's a video on TikTok where an Oklahoma fan was yelling at Missouri and their players something along the lines of, Coach is going to be gone next year. Why are you guys still playing for him? Drinkwitz responds to that fan in the moment there, and then responds again tonight by saying, it made me realize, this is a distraction not only for me that I hate, but also for my players, and it's not about me. It shouldn't be about me. This shouldn't be a distraction. Quite frankly, like Lane Kiffin is making it. Though my words, not his, in that scenario about Lane Kiffin, which I think is a good point. And again, I can absolutely see why that would prompt him to get it done. Also, another interesting thing he said about this was with NIL support, continuing to grow that, because a few weeks ago he had said that they're still looking to build that they're not where they need to be in order to compete at the top level of the SEC as far as NIL spending. And so he said that he's heard from Governor Kehoe, Senator Eric Schmidt, and then Representative Jason Smith as well, and then a few other top donors to the University of Missouri and its athletic program, has heard from them, has heard from Gary Pinkel to be able to maximize the opportunity and then be able to continue to grow that NIL pool. So some people took that comment from Drinkwitz a few weeks ago as I will be leaving if this doesn't happen, and I need it quick. I saw it more so at the time, and especially now see it as, he's like what he's built, but they can still grow, and he has optimism that they will be able to. Look, the argument for Drinkwitz to go to Penn State or LSU, that would have made sense if you take yourself out of the Missouri fan base, of course, of, the resources are already there. For Drinkwitz, still has that optimism that he can just simply build that at Mizzou, and it looks like even since he made those comments a few weeks ago about the NIL pool, they've been able to start building in that space. So this is definitely an interesting year for Missouri, definitely interesting when you compare it to 23 and 24. Progress isn't linear. They've had some, I want to say, weird things happen this year. They've had injuries that have happened, have popped up. Still, obviously, the offense isn't where it needed to be, even if they had Blake Craig to take a little bit of pressure off of them, even if they had Sam Horn to have another option to both feel like the offense isn't where it needed to be. They've faced adversity, though, and it really seems like more so this team lost this year in the offseason, which goes right to Drinkwitz's point. So that makes this offseason all the more interesting and entertaining. So excited to be here through it all, excited to kind of process this season more. So we'll have all those thoughts for you and all this coverage as the offseason kicks off for you over at Missouri Tigers on SI.